something feels wrong at Heartland. And for the first time in a long time, everyone can sense it. Jack, the man who has always been the strong center of the ranch, suddenly looks like he's carrying a weight no one can see. Episode 10 doesn't ease you in, it hits with a quiet tension, the kind that makes you sit forward and wonder, what happened to Jack? And why does it feel like he's hiding something big? From the very first moments of the episode, you can feel that Jack is not himself. It is not shown through big dramatic scenes or loud arguments. Heartland rarely works that way. Instead, it's the small details that speak the loudest. Jack moves a little slower than usual. He pauses more often, like his mind is somewhere far away. Even the simplest for something he has done all his life seem heavier on him today. And while he tries to hide it, the people who know him best can't help but notice. At breakfast, the energy around the table is off. Usually, Jack is the one making gentle jokes or giving the family those steady, reassuring looks. But today, he barely speaks. His eyes look tired, as if he didn't sleep well. Amy watches him closely, sensing something, but she doesn't push him. Lisa asks if everything is all right, but Jack brushes her off with a short answer, the kind that tells you more than it hides. It is clear he doesn't want questions, and that alone is enough to make everyone uneasy. The ranch itself seems to reflect Jack's mood. The sky is heavy with clouds, and the wind carries that quiet warning that a storm is on its way. Horses move restlessly in their paddocks. The atmosphere is tense, almost as if Heartland can feel the shift happening inside Jack. This is a place built on routine, on teamwork, on the steady presence of the people who run it. And when one of those pillars begins to crack, even a little, the whole ranch feels the difference. Tim tries to lighten the mood with his usual energy, but even he can sense something strange about Jack today. He comments on how Jack seems distracted, but Jack just shrugs and says he has things on his mind. It's an answer so vague that it only raises more questions. And yet, no one presses him, because no one wants to force him into saying something he is not ready to share. Still, the silence leaves a cold space at the table. As the day begins, Jack quietly slips out of the house before anyone can ask more. He walks toward the barn, but he moves slowly, almost painfully. He stops once, leaning slightly against a fence post, catching his breath. It's such a small moment you might miss it, but it's the kind of moment the Heartland writers include to tell you something important without saying a word. Inside the barn, he stands for a long time next to the old tools he has used for decades. There is a strange sadness in his eyes, as if he is looking back on all the years that passed too fast. He touches the worn wood, the leather straps, the dusty shelves, objects full of memories, good and hard. It's like he's trying to figure out something inside himself, something he hasn't shared with anyone yet. Meanwhile, in the house, Amy starts to feel uneasy. She knows Jack better than anyone, and she can see when he is carrying something heavy on his shoulders. She tells Lisa that Jack seems not fully here today, and Lisa agrees. Her worrying is clear. Jack is usually the grounding force in her life. When he becomes distant, she immediately fears something is wrong. She wonders out loud if Jack is hiding a new problem with the ranch, or worse, a problem with his health. The uncertainty slowly spreads through the house. Everyone senses that Jack is keeping something inside. And even though nothing dramatic has happened yet, the tension is enough to make you feel that episode 10 is building toward a moment no one is prepared for. Jack has always been strong, always been the one to guide others through storms. But this time, the storm seems to be inside him. Just as the clouds begin to gather over Heartland, so does the worrying. Something is changing. Something is coming. And the family can only hope it's not something that will break the man who has held everything together for so long. The day moves forward. But the tension that began in the morning doesn't fade, it grows heavier, like the sky thickening before a storm. Everyone tries to distract themselves with chores, but their eyes keep drifting back toward the road, the barn, anywhere Jack might appear. The ranch feels strangely quiet, the kind of quiet that makes every sound stand out. A bucket being set down, a horse snorting in the distance, the wind brushing against the old barn doors. It's as though Heartland is holding its breath. Amy finished tending to a restless mare and looks around for Jack, expecting to see him by the corral like he always is. But the spot is empty. The tools he usually uses are untouched. His hat isn't hanging on the hook where it should be. Something about the emptiness feels wrong, like a missing piece in a puzzle you didn't notice until now. She walks across the yard, calling his name softly, but no answer comes back, not even an echo. Inside the house, Lisa realizes Jack hasn't returned since he left after breakfast. She checks the kitchen, the porch, even the driveway. Nothing. She goes into their room, hoping maybe he just needed a moment alone. But when she sees his phone still on the nightstand, her heart sinks. Jack never goes anywhere without it, not because he loves technology, but because he knows everyone depends on him. Leaving it behind feels like a message, one he didn't mean to send. Tim enters the house, wiping dirt off his hands, and immediately sees the worrying on Lisa's face. She tells him Jack hasn't been around for a while, and the words hit him harder than he expects. For all their stubborn arguments and differences, Jack is still the person Tim looks to for steady ground. Tim tries to stay calm, but there's an edge in his voice when he says they should start looking. The history between them is complicated, but the fear in moments like this is simple and sharp. Amy joins them, confirming she can't find him anywhere on the ranch. They all stand together, each silently trying to make sense of it. Tim asks if anyone heard the truck leave, but no one did. The idea that Jack slipped away without a sound makes the air grow colder. He has never been the kind of man to disappear, not without a word, not without a reason. They walk outside, and Amy notices the tire marks in the dirt driveway. The tracks are fresh. Jack left earlier than they realized. The family moves quickly, each instinctively falling into roles shaped by years of working together. Tim heads straight for his truck, determined to cover the back roads. Amy saddles Spartan, needing to search the fields and trails he knows Jack walks when he needs space. Lisa stays behind, torn between wanting to help and staying close in case Jack returns on his own. As Amy rides out, she feels a knot in her chest. Memories of Jack teaching her to ride, to trust herself, flash through her mind. She always thought she'd be able to read him, understand him, but today, she feels like she's running blind. The wind pushes against her, cold and sharp, and every rustling tree makes her heart jump. Spartan senses her fear, moving with tense steps, as if he too knows something is wrong. Tim speeds down the dirt road, scanning every ditch, every fence line. His jaw is tight, his eyes sharper than usual. He keeps replaying the morning in his head, wondering if he missed a sign, a comment, anything that might have pointed to Jack's mindset. But all he remembers is Jack avoiding eye contact and rushing out the door. That alone feels like a warning he failed to see. Back at the ranch, Lisa tries to stay busy, but her hands shake with worrying. She checks Jack's phone again, hoping for a clue, a message, a missed call, anything. But the screen stays dark. She steps outside and looks at the horizon, whispering his name like the wind might carry it to him. The hardest part is the not knowing. Not knowing where he is. Not knowing why he left. Not knowing if he's okay. Minutes stretch into hours, and the fear begins to settle deep inside the family. Jack's disappearance isn't just a moment of needing space. It feels like a break in the routine of their lives, a moment when everything that felt steady suddenly tilts. Heartland has faced storms before: loss, heartbreak, danger, but this one feels different. This one feels personal. Because Jack isn't just missing. He's gone without a reason. And that's what scares them the most. The search stretches on, and with every passing hour, the worrying shifts into something deeper, something heavier. Heartland feels unfamiliar without Jack, almost like the ranch itself is trying to whisper hints about where he went. The animals seem more alert, the fields oddly still, and every corner of the property pulls at old memories that refuse to stay buried. It's in these quiet corners of Heartland that the first clues begin to surface, not through loud revelations, but through the soft echoes of Jack's past. Amy rides along the trail that Jack has walked thousands of times before. She stops every few moments, looking for anything out of place. Then she notices something small but striking, a fresh boot print near the riverbank. It's deeper than the others around it, like Jack had paused there for a long time. She kneels down, touching the print as if it might tell her why he came here. The river rushes past her, fast and cold, and for a moment she feels the weight of the same thoughts that might have led Jack to this quiet spot. She imagines him standing there, staring at the water, thinking about something he didn't want anyone else to carry. Not far away, Tim searches near the old cabin Jack built decades ago. The place is almost untouched by time, but today something feels different. Tim walks inside and notices dust disturbed on the table, the old kettle slightly shifted, and a single chair pulled back like someone had been sitting there recently. He runs his hand across the worn wood of the chair and feels a strange ache in his chest. Jack hasn't used this cabin in years, not since the days when he needed solitude to untangle the grief of losing his daughter. Lindy, if he came here again, it means something old has been stirred back at the ranch. Lisa finds herself drawn to the barn, Jack's favorite place to think when the world got too loud. She steps inside and immediately sees what she missed earlier. The old photo of Jack and his father has been moved. It's resting on the workbench instead of hanging on the nail by the window. She picks it up slowly, her fingers shaking. The picture is worn, the edges curled from years of being touched. Jack rarely speaks about his father, but when he does, his voice always carries the softness of unresolved hurt. Seeing this photo left out in the open feels like a message he didn't mean anyone to find. Lisa remembers the way Jack stared into the distance during breakfast, like he wasn't really at the table at all. Maybe he had been thinking about the past, about mistakes, regrets, or fears he never voiced. Jack was never the type to share his worries, not even with the person closest to him. He carried his pain the same way he carried the ranch, with quiet strength that made everyone forget he was human too. But now all those hidden pieces feel like they're rising to the surface. Amy reaches the old fishing spot near the meadow, a place Jack only visits when he needs to clear his mind. She dismounts and lets Spartan graze while she walks toward the water. A faint set of footprints leads to the edge of the shoreline, and near a smooth rock, she sees something that makes her stop. Jack's glove. Not dropped out of carelessness, but placed there gently, like a marker. She picks it up, pressing it to her chest, and for the first time since the search began, she feels a sting of fear strong enough to steal her breath. Jack never leaves his gloves behind. Not ever. As she stands there, the scene around her fades, replaced by memories. Jack teaching her to fish, scolding her gently when she doubted herself, holding her steady after Ty died, showing her how to rebuild a heart that felt too broken to fix. Every memory leads back to the same truth. Jack was always there for everyone else, but who was there for him when he needed the same kind of strength? Tim, still searching, stops near the ridge where he once argued with Jack years ago. The argument was pointless, yet both men carried the scar of it silently. He remembers Jack's words, then slow, firm, full of a quiet fear Tim never understood. A man can only run so long before he runs out of breath. Hearing those words in his mind now makes Tim wonder if Jack has finally reached that point. Meanwhile, Lisa walks back to the house, clutching the old photo, and sits on the porch where she shared countless peaceful evenings with Jack. She studies the picture again, noticing something she never paid attention to before: the expression in his young eyes. It's the same expression she saw on him this morning. A mix of sadness, worrying, and something close to goodbye. The clues are small, scattered, and incomplete, but together they paint a picture none of them want to accept. Jack didn't just wander off. He didn't just need space. Something pushed him to leave, something heavy enough to take him back into the shadows of his past. And as the family pieces together the traces he left behind, one truth becomes painfully clear: Jack isn't just lost in the world. He's lost inside himself. And finding him will mean facing the parts of his story he never wanted anyone to see. Amy's search leads her farther than she expected, into the quieter edges of Heartland, where the trees grow closer together and the air feels heavier. Spartan moves with careful steps, as if he senses the tension inside her. She keeps one hand on the glove she found, gripping it tightly like a lifeline. The deeper she goes, the more she feels Jack's presence, not because he's near, but because every part of the land holds pieces of his life, his stories, his struggles, his fears. It all feels connected now, like every clue they found was slowly pointing them toward a moment they aren't ready for. Tim's truck pulls up on a ridge overlooking the valley. He gets out and stands still for a long time, scanning the land. He knows Jack's habits better than he lets on. He knows where Jack goes when he's angry, when he's sad, when he's overwhelmed. And he knows one place in particular that Jack avoids unless he has something heavy on his heart. The thought hits him hard, and he whispers under his breath, hoping he's wrong. But deep down, he knows he's not. Lisa sits on the porch waiting for any sign of him, but her worrying grows sharper with every passing second. She stares at the photo in her hands until her vision blurs, not from the fading light but from tears she can no longer hold back. She begins to realize that Jack didn't leave because of anger or confusion. He left because he didn't want anyone to see what he was struggling with. And that, more than anything, breaks her heart. Because Jack has spent a lifetime protecting others, carrying burdens alone, believing it was his responsibility to be the strong one. But even the strongest hearts get tired. Amy follows a narrow trail until she reaches the old hill overlooking Heartland, the place where Jack once told her that everyone needs a quiet corner in the world to think clearly. She remembers sitting with him there as a child, listening as he talked about life, choices, and the weight of responsibility. That hill was sacred to him, a place where he let the guard down he always kept so firmly in place. And then she sees him. Jack is sitting alone near the edge of the hill, his back hunched slightly, his hands folded tightly in front of him. The wind lifts his hair, and the setting sun casts a soft, tired glow across his face. He looks older than he did that morning, older, not in years, but in weariness. The kind of weariness only a heavy heart can create. Amy's breath catches in her chest. She has never seen him look so fragile, not even in the hardest moments of their lives. She approaches slowly, afraid that the sound of her footsteps might shatter the fragile peace around him. When Jack hears her, he doesn't turn right away. He stays silent, like he's searching for the right words, or maybe the courage to speak them. When he finally looks up, his eyes are filled with something she rarely sees in him: fear. Not fear of danger or pain, but fear of being honest about what he's been hiding. Amy sits beside him without saying a word. She knows better than to rush him. Jack takes a deep breath, and his voice comes out low and uneven. He tells her he had been to see a doctor earlier in the week. He hadn't meant to hide it, not at first, but the more he tried to speak about it, the harder it became. He didn't want to worry anyone. He didn't want to show weakness. He didn't want to admit that the years had finally caught up with him. The silence after his confession is long and thick. Amy feels her throat tighten, but she forces herself to stay calm. She asks what the doctor said, and Jack hesitates, looking out over the fields as if the answer might change based on where he looks. He explains that the doctor told him his heart is under strain. Nothing immediate, nothing life-ending, but something that requires him to slow down, to let others take the weight he's carried for decades. For Jack, that's the worst news imaginable. He tells Amy he walked away from the ranch because he didn't know how to face them. He didn't know how to admit that he might not be able to do all the things he once could. The idea of stepping back, not leading, not fixing, not helping, felt like losing a part of himself. And when he woke up that morning feeling weaker than usual, fear pushed him into silence, into running. Amy listens, tears slipping quietly down her cheeks. She tells him something simple but powerful: that needing help doesn't make him any less strong. That the family doesn't love him because of what he does, but because of who he is. That no matter what lies ahead, he won't face it alone. For the first time in a long while, Jack lets himself lean into her embrace. The man who once stood like a mountain now allows himself to be held. The sun dips lower, wrapping them in warm colors, and for a moment, The hill feels like a place of healing rather than fear. Then Tim arrives, breathless and tense. When he sees Jack, the relief hits him so hard he almost stumbles. He doesn't yell, doesn't scold, doesn't let pride speak first. Instead, he walks over and sits down beside them. And without needing to ask, he understands. He sees the truth on Jack's face, and though the pain of it sinks deep, he pushes it aside to offer the one thing Jack needs most support. The three of them sit together, quietly letting the truth settle into the air. It isn't a perfect moment. It isn't a complete resolution. But it is the beginning of healing, the moment when Jack finally lets the people he loves help carry the weight he can no longer carry alone.